What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rosie TV, and today we have a special episode. We're going to be going over many transfers that have been completed over the past few weeks. The transfer window is finally open and it's in full swing at the moment, with a lot of deals being completed by big clubs, small clubs, basically everybody. So just like my last transfer video, I'm going to go through every single person and I'm going to grade that transfer based on price, how valuable they are to their team that they just got bought by. So there's a lot of different criteria that I'll be grading upon. First, I want to talk about 3 free transfers. The first being Jermain Defoe leaving Sunderland, going to Bournemouth, a team that he has played with before on loan very early in his career. And it's very possible that this is going to be his last team. He signed a 3-year contract. By the end of his contract, he'll be 37, so he'll probably retire at Bournemouth. Defoe, currently 34 years old, past 2 seasons in the Premier League, has scored 15 goals each. So despite his old age, he can still put up decent numbers in the league. I think he could be very valuable for a smaller team, but the reason why I don't think this is a great signing is because Bournemouth have someone like Josh King, a very young, good striker that they can invest all their time with, but they decided to bring in Jermain Defoe. So I do predict Defoe will put up probably around 10 or more goals next season for Bournemouth. Will they be playing 2 strikers up top? Will they be playing Josh King a little bit behind Jermain Defoe? We're going to find out. But for this transfer, I'm going to give it a C. I think it was an average transfer. They got in a veteran like Defoe, but at the same time, they do have Josh King already there. Moving on to another free transfer, Pepe from Real Madrid has transferred to Besiktas from the Turkish League. They did win the Turkish League last year, and now they bring in a veteran defender like Pepe. I did think he was going to end up going to China. There were some links to PSG, but he ended up going to Besiktas instead. I think it was a good time for him to move on, and it was a good time for Real Madrid to let him go. He didn't play many games last season due to injury, but 2 seasons ago when Real Madrid won the Champions League and Portugal won the Euros, he was, for me, one of the top 3, 4, 5 defenders in the world. So if he can bring that to the Turkish League, that'll be a great asset for Besiktas, who are in the Champions League next season. So for this transfer, I'm going to give it a B, which will transition us to another veteran defender, John Terry, transferring from Chelsea to Aston Villa on a free. I definitely did not expect this. I thought he was going to go to America, or he was going to go to a lower table team in the Premier League, but he ends up going to a championship team coached by Steve Bruce, of course, in Aston Villa. He is 36 years old, but he's still a very good defender who will be one of the best defenders in the championship, if not the best defender in the championship. And it's only a 1-year contract, so this could very possibly be John Terry's last year. I think it's a really good career move for Terry, not just going to one of the bigger clubs in the MLS, just making millions and retiring on top, but here at Villa, he could possibly help them get promoted into the Premier League and then retire, which would be a great story for him. But as for this transfer, I'm going to give it a B+, and I'm very excited to see how Terry plays in the championship next season. Next, I want to talk about Maxime Gonalons. This transfer definitely went under the radar. He has been transferred from Lyon to Roma. 28 years old, in the prime of his career, just had a great season at Lyon. He only cost 5 million. In this market, that is an absolute bargain. With Daniele De Rossi aging, we could see Maxime Gonalons starting a lot of games next season. He's a very good defensively minded midfielder, averaging 4.4 tackles a game in the league and 2.3 interceptions a game. Monchi is already working his magic at Roma, getting in Gonalons for such a low price. For this transfer, I'm going to give it an A-. Moving on to one of my favorite transfers of this transfer window so far, Sandro Ramirez has been transferred from Malaga to Everton for only 6 million euros, which is an absolute bargain. I honestly wouldn't have been surprised if he was transferred with triple the price, but 6 million, an absolute bargain for Everton, who are doing a lot of work in this transfer window to take that extra step, possibly challenge for a top 4. But Sandro in the league last season, he had 14 goals, he had 3 assists, and he's only 21 years old. He does have to adjust to the Premier League, which could be rigorous, but if the Everton fans stay patient and Koeman stays patient as well, I think they could have a real star on their hands. I'm going to give this transfer an A. Moving on to another great transfer, Della has returned to Barcelona. They exercised their buyback clause and brought him back for only 12 million. I think this was also a great signing. Last season for Milan in the second half of the campaign, he did score 4 goals, assisted 3. He's a very versatile player. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, and I think he'll be a great depth option for Barcelona, who definitely struggled in that department last season. When Messi, Neymar, Suarez needed to be taken off, they would always bring on someone like Paco Alcacer, who is the opposite of Defoe, not a very versatile player. He can play up top, but he's not going to do a job for you on the wings. But Defoe can play on either wing. He's definitely not going to be a starter in this Barcelona squad, but I think he could get a lot of minutes in La Liga for the low price and for him being very valuable to this Barcelona depth. I'm going to give this transfer an A as well. Moving on to Nathan Ake. The 22-year-old has been transferred from Chelsea to Bournemouth. Now, last season, the first part of the season, he was playing for Bournemouth on loan until he was recalled by Antonio Conte for Chelsea. But it looks like he's not in Conte's plans. They sold him for a total of 20 million. Chelsea did make a lot of money off of somebody who hasn't really established himself quite yet. Bournemouth broke their transfer record on this player. I know he's played very well for Bournemouth, but it seems that the price is only high because it's within the Premier League. If they did get someone from abroad who's just about the same as Ake, it would probably be a quarter of the price. That being said, I'm going to give this one a B-. Moving on to a signing I'm very excited about as a Milanista. We have signed Hakan Çalhanoğlu from Bayer Leverkusen. He's only 23 years old, and we already have such a young spine, especially with all the players we brought in being 26 years old or younger. And he only cost 22 million euros. He had some links to Tottenham as well, who are going to be in the Champions League next season. So I'm very glad that he did end up coming to us. Last season in the league and the Champions League, he scored 7 goals, set up 7 goals, only 21 appearances. He didn't have many appearances because of his whole playing ban in the second half of the season. He averages 1.7 key passes per game, but he is most known for his set pieces. One of the very best set piece takers in the world, and I think we got him for a very reasonable price. I'm going to give this one an A-. Moving on to Leandro Pires, who has went from Roma to Zenit. This was kind of a surprising signing because Zenit have been kind of quiet over the past few years, ever since throwing the money around and bringing in guys like Hulk. But I've seen a decent amount of him. I think he's a good player, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. Last season in the league, he averaged 1.6 key passes per game, has an 88% pass accuracy, averaged 1.8 tackles per game, as well as 1.4 interceptions per game. I don't know if this is a signing that could push Zenit to win the league because he's still very young, very raw, but they did get third last season, so this could definitely help in the pursuit to win the Russian league. But if everything goes right, I think this is going to be a great signing for Zenit, for Mancini, who was just appointed as their coach. I'm overall going to give this one a B. Next, I'm going to be moving on to Michael Keane, who's transferred from Burnley to Everton, 28.5 million euros for the 24-year-old. Last season in the league, he averaged 1.8 interceptions per game, 7.4 clearances per game, 1.3 blocks per game, and 4.3 aerial duels won per game, which is a very good statistic right there. I think he was one of the best center backs in the league last season for an overperforming Burnley side. I don't think he was given much of a chance at Manchester United, but he's totally proven himself, and I think he could be a very good asset for Ronald Koeman in Everton. The price was criticized by many, 28.5 million for a player who had basically one good season, but at the same time, you look at John Stones and he went for 50 million. That being said, I think it was a pretty decent price. It could have been better, but all in all, this is a player with a lot of potential, possibly a future England starter. So overall, I'm going to give this transfer a B as well. Moving on to Theo Hernandez, who has transferred from Atletico Madrid to Real Madrid for a total of 30 million euros, which is a lot for a 19-year-old. He was at Alaves last season, but he is owned by Atletico Madrid. I'm surprised they let him go to such a big rival in Real Madrid. And while the price was a lot, that doesn't matter to Real Madrid. They have a lot of money to spend. And he's only 19 years old with some really good statistics. Averaged 2 tackles, 1.3 interceptions last season, had 1 goal, 3 assists, and he averaged 2 dribbles per game, which is even more than Marcelo in the league, who averaged 1.4 dribbles per game. I think this was a really good signing in terms of necessity. They didn't really have a good backup left back option. Quentrell has left the Sporting, and every time Marcelo was out, they would just put Nacho at the left back spot. But now you have a natural left back in Theo Hernandez. He will get time, he will get minutes. Zinedine Zidane does like to play the youth. Maybe after they're ready to move on from Marcelo in 3 seasons or maybe a little bit more, this could be your regular starter. On the flip side, I do think it was a lot of money. As I said, it doesn't matter to Real Madrid, but it could look very bad if he doesn't have a good season at Madrid. You look at someone like Danilo, who transferred for a similar price, 30 million, and it really hasn't panned out. I do think it was a good signing. I'm going to give it a B-, but I could be completely wrong, and this could go very well for Madrid and Zidane. Next, I want to talk about Mohamed Salah, who was transferred from Roma to Liverpool for a total of 42 million euros. I think this was a fantastic signing for Liverpool. He had 17 goals, 11 assists in 38 appearances last season in the Europa League and in the league. And he averaged a goal or assist every 102 minutes. He also had 2.2 key passes per game, 1.1 dribbles per game. And now he can be a part of a very scary front four at Liverpool. Firmino up top, Mane on the left, Salah on the right, and Coutinho right behind. I think it was a good price. I think it's improved a Liverpool attack that is already stacked. I'm going to give this transfer an A. Finally, I want to end off on the biggest transfer so far in this window, in my opinion. He transferred from Lyon to Arsenal for 60 million. It was confirmed today. Alexander Lacazette is finally an Arsenal player. It's probably 2 or 3 years overdue, but Wenger has finally brought in the top striker. He had a fantastic campaign last season in all competitions. 35 goals, 4 assists in 43 appearances, which averages out to a goal or assist every 84 minutes. I think Lyon are a solid team, but now he's going to get even better service at Arsenal. You have guys like Sanchez, guys like Ozil, guys like Xhaka. They can click on all fronts. I wouldn't be surprised if Lacazette had a 25 goal season next year. Also, I do think this is a very important signing to show Sanchez your ambition. That's going to take the weight off of someone like Sanchez's shoulders. But as for Lacazette, I think it's an A signing. I do think it was overdue, but he's finally been brought in. I'm interested to see how he adjusts to the Premier League. Sometimes that can be very difficult for these French league players. But all in all, I think it was a fantastic signing. Anyways, that's it. Those are the 13 signings I wanted to talk about. Look for more videos like these when more big signings get confirmed. Tell me your thoughts on all the signings. Tell me your favorite signings so far in the transfer window. Please like, share, and subscribe for more football content. And thank you for watching Rosie TV.